All right, if you're diving into the world of Kubernetes, there's one tool you're going to be using all day, every day. And that tool is kubectl. It's basically the key to everything. So in this explainer, we're building a super practical guide to the 80% of commands you'll actually use to get stuff done.
So you've got this amazing, incredibly powerful system, Kubernetes, right? It's running all your applications, managing your infrastructure, but how do you actually communicate with it? How do you ask it what's going on or, tell it what to do? That's the big question we're answering today.
And the answer? It's kubectl. The best way to think about it is like a universal remote control for your cluster. It honestly doesn't matter if your cluster is running in the cloud, on your laptop, in a massive data center. Kubectl is the standard way you talk to the Kubernetes brain, the API.
We're going to break this down into 4 simple parts. First, we'll learn how to just look around and see what's happening. Then, we'll dive in and inspect the nitty-gritty details. After that, we'll get our hands dirty and actually make some changes. And finally, we'll cover something that is absolutely crucial, managing your connections to different clusters. Okay, let's start at the very beginning, just getting a feel for your cluster, getting the lay of the land. These are the commands you're going to use to get that high-level overview and just understand what's currently up and running. The very first command you absolutely positively have to know is kubectl get. Think of it as your window into the cluster. You use it to get pretty much anything. Pods, services, deployments, you name it. It is a starting point for almost everything you're ever going to do.
For example, when you run kubectl get pods, you get this nice, clean table. You can see the pod's name, for sure. But the columns you'll be looking at all the time are status, which tells you right away if your app is running or not, and restarts. I mean, if you see that restart count ticking up, you know something's going wrong inside your container.
But wait, there's more. The real power of get comes from its flags. If you need to see the entire raw configuration of an object, you add -o YAML. If you just want a bit more detail, like which physical machine a pod is running on, use -o wide. And my favorite for troubleshooting, W, lets you watch for changes as they happen in real time.
So how do you even know what you can get? Are you supposed to memorize it all? Nope. You just run kubectl API-resources. This command is awesome. It lists every single resource type your specific cluster knows about, and it even gives you these handy short names, like PO for pods or NS for namespaces. It's like a built-in dictionary for your cluster.
Okay, so you see what's running. The next logical question is, how much CPU and memory is it chewing up? Well, that's where kubectl top comes in. You can ask for top pod to see which of your apps are the resource hogs, or you can use top node to check the overall health and capacity of the machines in your cluster. Super useful.
Okay, we've observed the cluster, we've got the high-level view, now it's time to put on our detective hats. This next set of commands is all about digging deeper, investigating issues, and really understanding why things are the way they are.
So if get gives you the facts, describe tells you the story. When you run kubectl describe on a pod, you don't just get its status, you get this whole narrative summary. And this is the secret sauce. Right at the very bottom, you see a log of recent events related just to that object. Trust me, this is often the first place you'll find an error message.
If describe doesn't give you the answer, the next step is to check the application's own logs. kubectl logs lets you peek inside a running container and see exactly what it's printing out. And if you add the F flag, you can follow the logs in real time, which is absolutely essential for debugging issues as they happen.
You know, sometimes the problem isn't your application at all, it's the cluster itself. That's when you use kubectl get events. This shows you a log from the Kubernetes control plane, the cluster's brain. If a pod isn't starting, this is where you'll see messages like insufficient CPU or image pull back off. And here's a pro tip. Always use -sort by =.metadata.creation timestamp to see the newest events first. You'll thank me later.
Now this next one is one of my absolute favorites. It's called kubectl explain. Instead of opening up a browser and Googling for documentation, you can just ask Kubernetes to explain itself. You can start broad, like explain stateful set, and then you can drill down into specific fields using dot notation. It's your interactive API reference, right there in the terminal. No context switching.
All right, enough looking around, enough investigating. It's time to actually do something. Let's move on to the commands that let us change the state of our cluster and interact directly with our running applications.
Now this is a really crucial point. There are 2 ways to make things, create and apply. Create is like a one-time command, but the modern standard way is kubectl apply -f with a YAML file. This is what we call declarative. You're telling Kubernetes the desired state, and Kubernetes does all the hard work to make it happen. Seriously, 99% of the time, this is what you want to be using.
Need to get your hands dirty and debug something live? kubectl is your best friend. It lets you bash into a running container and get an interactive shell. From there, you can check files, test network connections, run diagnostic tools, all without having to rebuild and redeploy your container. It's a lifesaver. And to round this section out, here are two other super handy interactive commands, cp and port forward. cp does what it sounds like. It lets you copy files into or out of a pod, perfect for grabbing log files or uploading a config. And port forward creates a secure tunnel from your local machine right to a pod, so you can access, say, a web UI in the cluster as if it were running on localhost.
Okay, this last part might just be the most important one, especially as you start working with more complex setups. As you grow, you'll have access to multiple clusters: dev, staging, production. These commands make sure you don't accidentally send your instructions to the wrong place. And you don't want to do that.
First things first, kubeconfig getContext will show you all the clusters you have set up. To see which one you're talking to right now, use kubeconfig current context. To switch, it's just kubeconfig use context. This is so critical for avoiding big mistakes. You can also set a default namespace for your current context, which will save you a ton of typing.
So, let's tie it all together. Your daily workflow in Kubernetes really just boils down to this simple pattern. You observe what's going on with get and top, you inspect any weirdness with describe and logs, and then you interact to make changes or fix things with apply and exec. It's a really powerful mental model to keep in your head.
And that was always the goal here. We're not trying to learn every single command under the sun. This is all about mastering those powerful core commands you're going to use for 80% of your work.
Believe it or not, we've really only covered about 12 core commands today. That's it. It's a surprisingly small, really manageable toolkit that unlocks a huge amount of productivity and control over any Kubernetes cluster you touch.
So there you have it. You've got the universal remote, and you know how to use it. You basically have the keys to the cluster now. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?